And welcome to Dual Analog. This is a video game podcast. I am here with my face, and over here is...
This is Agnes, everybody. It's Dual Analog.
Today we'll be talking about several topics, one of which is the 3DS. It's pertinent to what is happening right now. It was just released. And I would like to give...
this Sunday.
Yes, that's right. And we have both a 3DS right here in front of us, and it is turning on its camera for me for some reason. I would like to go on a quick rant to get... Oh. I'll go on a quick rant and try to explain my impressions. And try to waste as little time as possible, because what we really want to do is talk about games. So, first of all, I'll begin with the good. The 3D effect blew my mind at first glance. It really looked like I was looking at a hologram prize from a cereal box. No, I'm just kidding. It's better than that. The fidelity was impressive, considering the shady 3D mechanism that Nintendo used. You know, the two separate images going to two different eyes. Now, when I think about it and I'm playing with the games, I just want to see everything in 3D. Going back to 2D makes it seem like I'm missing something now. Backwards compatibility works really great. From what I've gathered, I was playing Okamiden, which is for the DS, and it was quite excellent. It does have the sidebars on the side because the window is different. It's a different aspect ratio for the screen size, but it works quite well. I'm not sure about other reviewers were talking about with the resolution issues. The slider thumbpad is far more responsive and manageable than the PSP version thumbpad. There's a greater span of motion and a slightly larger dead space, which I suppose is software dependent, but I couldn't really tell because Okamiden was a poor indicator of this. It's originally a DS game. They just mapped the D-pad over into the thumbpad slider. The case design is amazingly resistant to fingerprints. Although it has a mirror finish, it has a sparkly paint texturized surface, so the fingerprints are nearly invisible. It's almost like how stippling works to conceal the warp of a ceiling. Now, I'm going to go right back to the beginning and poo-poo everything I just said that was good about it, because that's just what I do. The bad. The 3D effect is extremely fragile. Any motion destroys the illusion. The frame rate drops with using the 3D, like in Street Fighter, you turn on the 3D and it goes down from 60 frames per second down to 30 frames per second. And particularly when observing the accelerated parallax effect, things begin to look really stuttery. The 3D effect is also really exaggerated. The problem being is that the 3D objects begin to look like they're matching size scale to the 3DS itself. Everything looks like it's miniaturized. The Street Fighters look like little toys. I suppose the fundamental flaw with 3D is that larger objects will look inherently less 3D than smaller objects, since their image representation varies very little between each eye, whereas opposed to in the case with small objects held close together, there's a huge difference. I mean, another thing I thought about this device, the ergonomics is horrific. I don't know how the other DSs were, but I put this thing in my hand and I tried to, since they introduced this little thumbpad slider, they didn't have that in the recent DSs, they were forced to design the D-pad further south on the device. So in order to engage the thumbpad with your thumb, at the same time as holding the left bumper with your index finger, it requires you to hold it in this claw grip. So instead of your thumb being vertical to be able to control, as if it's the same as with the thumbpad, you have to do this kind of horizontal thing. And it's just not intuitive. It just doesn't feel quite right. And I imagine if I was to play this thing for longer than 2 hours, it would start to really hurt. So two more things. The flimsy 3D slider, that's the first thing that's going to break on it, and it's got a low max volume. So that's kind of what bugs me about it. What about your impressions?
My impressions were, I have to agree with a lot of what you said. The 3D effect on first glance is incredibly impressive. I've been showing it to everyone, being like, check out the latest technology in the video game industry, because nobody believes me that there's something cool going on. But for the most part, so the game that impressed me the most, I got Street Fighter and I played that for a while. That wasn't terribly impressive, but what really impressed me was AR games. I found that the way that it used the cards and the surrounding environment to be the most effective representation of the 3D in the console and the 3D screen. I found the camera to be really shitty.
Yeah.
And you can tell that this is like really nascent technology and that this is the first iteration of this stuff. And the next, like, you know how they're coming up with 3D video cameras and video recorders, which will basically be only viewable on that tiny screen of that video camera because the screen is the same technology as a Nintendo screen. So basically, I mean, they'll be viewable on 3D TVs, but kind of a strangely limited market for this 3D stuff. Anyways, yeah, really shitty camera. The AR games was the most impressive, but the thing is you have to move around the object in the AR games in order to see it from different angles, in order to shoot the arrow at different targets. And when you're doing that, and you've got the 3D on, and you're moving around and you get lost in the game, what happens is the 3D effect disappears because you move around the screen and you lose the sweet spot. So lots of little issues with this console. Really cool. Pretty much my first DS, so I don't know what the other DSs are like. I don't use the D-pad. I'm still getting used to not playing the PSP, so that's kind of its own thing. The game that I played was Street Fighter. It was alright. Not terribly impressed by the 3D effect in it, but it was pretty good. I'm more excited about the Street Pass. I've already noticed a couple of people that have walked by with the new 3DSs. I've had the Street Pass on, and that's exciting.
Did it make it?
I really like that aspect.
Did it make your Mii representative of you? You know
Yes,
what I'm
it did.
talking about.
It made it really. It thought I was a man.
It did? Mine
Yeah.
caught me almost exactly. I mean, not exactly,
Really?
but it got my bushy eyebrows, like, pretty good.
Yeah, right.
It,
Mine got my nose.
yeah?
Got her like right on.
Right.
Yeah. But then I changed it. And
Oh,
I did
yeah, they
notice
give
that
you
I had
that option.
glasses. Yeah.
Now I'm stuck moving my eyebrows. I'm like staring at myself. Just
Okay. I think that's pretty good for impressions on 3DS.
All right, let's move on then.
Yeah, let's. Yeah. So we've had all this new technology coming out. Like the 3DS is coming out. We've got another handheld console coming from Sony, which is the NGP. I think that's what the acronym is. Can't really remember anymore. And there's a whole bunch of new video game engines that have been coming out recently, like from Unreal 3D and...
Yeah, there's
do you
also,
remember?
don't even remember. There's the Frostbite engine for the for
Yeah.
the Battlefield 3. That's pretty impressive. Crysis, all sorts of things. But really, is that what we should be focusing on at this time? I'm kind of jumping to what I think you're about to say, because graphics.
Well, no, I mostly bring it up because like graphics have been such a major topic for development, but other aspects of the game technology have not been as developed.
Yeah, the processor.
And of course, you know what I'm going to say.
Yeah, the processor can be used for all sorts of other things, like we just talked about before this podcast, is AI, right? And AI is horrific in all games. Well, no, I don't want to make that generalization, but pretty well everything that you see is like a multiple choice question, right? When you're talking to any character, when you're shooting at any character, they have a multiple choice of what they're going to do and how they're going to respond.
Yeah, well, at the same time, like you've got this multiple choice thing going on with the characters, but it's almost become sort of a game mechanic in certain games. Most recently, Assassin's Creed. First, we saw it in the ship, and also in Spy vs. Sniper game. It's like an indie production by a university, I think.
Well,
this idea of humans trying to pretend to be AI because the AI is so bad.
Yeah, now you're talking beyond that. It's no longer that you're talking about not making AI better. Because multiple choice, sure, there could be multiple choice, but as long as it's not transparent to the gamer, right? It should be so complex as to imitate intelligence, hence artificial AI. But what you're talking about is that you take that funny AI, that flaw, that imperfect design that is pretty transparent to the gamer, and you use it in the game mechanics, right? So you pretend to be one of the game AIs. So, for example, in Spy Party, which is a newer game coming out, which is an indie game, there's a spy. It's a multiplayer game. One is a spy, and one person is a sniper. The spy is supposed to go and do some spy things. some spy hooligan things, and the sniper is supposed to kill him. Identify the spy and kill him. But the thing is, the spy can act like the other AI characters within the game. For example, you're in a party, and you could be drinking, you could be interacting with the other characters within the game, and as soon as you make a mistake, as soon as you drop a glass or you run across the room to go steal the golden ankh or whatever you're trying to steal, the sniper is supposed to kill you. There's a limited amount of time, so that's the game mechanic. That's it's not exactly new, though. As you were saying, you mentioned what was that game?
The ship.
Yes, the ship. I don't remember how that game works. Would you like to describe it?
It was a game on Steam where you would, I believe the way that it worked was you would get an assassination target, and you would try to find them and assassinate them. And it was all about backstabbery. But I think that the most modern implementation of this would be Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, where you blend in with crowds. And something that's been happening in that game is like you find a way to get the AI to react and the human won't react. It's like a reverse. It's like a Turing test, but being used against the gamer in order to figure out who the people are. So, like, you would drop a bomb into a crowd, and the player won't run away, but all the AI machines will.
Oh yeah, because it's all their reaction time is programmed to be super fast to that kind of thing.
Yeah, but like a human player will not be able to react to that. So there's all these tricks and things that people are doing.
That's clever.
But I mean, it's like playing the system, and I do appreciate that whenever that happens in games, especially when the technology is not quite there yet. But there has been research done into AI, most notably it's sort of a film, but maybe not really, by David Lynch and a few other people. It's Let's Play Facade, really terrible graphics, where you can type any response to these two characters. It's a married couple who have invited you over for dinner, and basically you're role-playing and trying to figure out what their problem is, and they've got issues. So you can either marriage counsel them through it, or you can make them break up. Or there are a whole bunch of different endings, and you do all this through typing. So whatever you type is what they respond to, and they respond to the syntax of your sentence and the meaning of your sentence, and they respond with immediately generated dialogue. It's not pre-generated. It's something that is come up with on the spot. So this is, I think, an example of AI that would be very difficult to actually implement in a game, but is interesting from the standpoint of games, especially more narrative ones. I don't know. What do you have to say about that?
So the real catch of this game is the simulated infinite possibilities that you can have within the game. So it's not really an infinite amount of possibilities. It's just they have made an algorithm that responds to just enough of your inputs. Perhaps it's more akin to, what is that DS game where you can make objects?
Oh, Scribblenauts.
It's more akin to Scribblenauts than anything else.
Yeah, but it's being considered, like, people have been talking about it like this great AI game, and I just thought that bringing this up in relation to the conversation about AI would be interesting. But you bring up an excellent point, like, what exactly constitutes AI?
Well, it's just something that can mimic intelligence, real intelligence, right? It's anything like that. Not in the sense that a program would mimic intelligence, as in it could solve a math problem or something like that. It is when a program can take an accumulation of all the information that is acquired throughout its entire experience of existence and use that to make a decision and to respond to the current inputs that it's given, which programs are not designed that way. They're designed with very specific inputs, and they're designed to expect specific inputs from the user. Now, if you give it, in a sense, a life, if you give it this whole broad range. Yeah. What are you saying?
No, I was just going to ask you, like, is it, given the technology that we've got right now, is it possible to implement such a system of intelligence, or is it currently unfeasible? I mean, like, we talk about the graphical limitations, but okay, go ahead.
No. End podcast.
Yeah, okay.
It's 15-minute mark.
All right, thanks,
Bye-bye.
guys.